There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes she's not being loved, she's being used. Not cherished, tolerated. Not valued, expected. And let me tell you something, when a man takes you for granted, he's betting on one thing, that you don't know your worth. But that's about to change right here, right now. Before he ever gets the chance to define who you are, you must make that decision for yourself. Because here's the truth, if you don't claim your identity, the world will assign you one. And often, the version it hands you is small, quiet, and convenient. Convenient for them, not for you. When you don't walk in certainty about who you are, you start believing the opinions of others. You start mistaking attention for affection and control for care. The moment you hand over the pen, someone else starts writing your story, and they'll never write you as the hero. Too many women fall into relationships hoping to be completed, waiting to be seen, craving to be chosen. But you were never meant to be chosen, you were born enough. You were never made to be discovered like lost treasure, you are the gold. The problem is, when you don't know that, you'll settle for crumbs and call it a feast. You'll stay in places where your presence is expected, not appreciated. And you'll slowly begin to trade your authenticity for acceptance until one day you don't even recognize the woman in the mirror. When a man begins to take you for granted, it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers. Subtleties. A missed text here, a forgotten plan there. At first you make excuses. He's busy. He's stressed. He didn't mean it. But deep down your spirit knows. You feel that quiet ache is up telling you something is off. And still, you silence it. Because facing the truth would mean facing the fear that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't value you like he once did. That maybe he never really did. He just liked the version of you that required the least effort. This is where the transformation begins, when you stop asking, why doesn't he see me? And start asking, why don't I see myself? Because when you know your value, you stop chasing validation. You stop needing his attention like oxygen. And you begin to realize your worth was never on the table. It was always in you, unshakable, unchanging. A man who truly sees you doesn't need convincing. And one who needs convincing was never truly looking at you, just at what you could offer him. There is no power in waiting for someone else to define you. Real power is forged in solitude, in the quiet moments when you decide who you are without applause, without approval, without reassurance. When you build your life from your own vision, not someone else's comfort zone. You do not need to be molded to fit into someone else's idea of love. You are not made of glass, meant to be shaped delicately. You are fire. And fire does not ask permission to burn, it just does. That's the woman you were born to be. The one who walks into a room not to be seen, but to be felt. So stop negotiating your identity in the hopes that someone might stay. Stop watering yourself down to make someone else feel full. You are not here to be his echo, his shadow, his fallback plan. You are here to stand tall in your truth, even if that truth makes others uncomfortable. Especially if it does. Because the moment you decide who you are truly, unapologetically, you reclaim your life. And no one gets to take that from you again. Love is not meant to strip you down. It is not supposed to make you smaller, quieter, or afraid to speak. If loving someone forces you to silence your voice, it's not love, it's survival. And you were not born to survive someone's presence. You were born to thrive in love that holds space for your truth. If you find yourself second-guessing everything you say, tiptoeing around moods, walking on eggshells to avoid conflict, that's not intimacy. That's emotional exhaustion. Real love does not ask you to trade your dignity for companionship. Some women have been conditioned to believe that pain is a part of love, that if it hurts, it must be deep. If it's chaotic, it must be passionate. But that is a lie. A beautiful toxic lie that keeps so many in situations that chip away at their spirit. Love isn't supposed to confuse you. It's not meant to make you question your worth every night. It shouldn't feel like a constant game of proving yourself just to earn attention or affection. If he needs to be reminded of your value, then he was never ready to receive you in the first place. A man who truly loves you will protect your dignity as fiercely as he protects his own. He will not speak to you with disrespect. He will not weaponize silence. And he will not use your vulnerability against you. If you constantly feel small in his presence, it's time to ask yourself, am I in love? Or am I in fear? Because fear will tell you to stay. Fear will say, this is the best you'll get. Fear will wrap itself in familiar arms and call it comfort. But love, real love, will never make you choose between being loved and being respected. You don't have to lose yourself to keep him. You don't have to sacrifice your voice to stay close. If staying with him feels like losing pieces of yourself, that's not a relationship, it's a slow erosion of self. You deserve love that sees you, that hears you, that doesn't flinch when you speak your truth. You deserve someone who celebrates your fire, not someone who fears it. Your strength should be admired, not diminished. And your standards should be honored, not negotiated down to make someone else feel less intimidated. There is a difference between compromising and sacrificing. Compromise is when two people meet in the middle out of mutual respect. Sacrifice, when it becomes one-sided, is surrendering your identity to preserve someone else's comfort. That's not noble, it's dangerous. Because the more you give away pieces of your dignity, the harder it becomes to recognize yourself. You were not created to be background music in someone else's life. You are the entire soundtrack. Don't reduce your volume just because someone can't handle the full sound of you. You are not asking for too much when you expect to be treated with decency, honesty, and honor. Those are not luxuries, they're the bare minimum. If a man cannot love you without wounding your dignity, he is not worthy of your heart. You were not made for conditional affection. You were not made to beg for presence, for time, for clarity. You were made to be met fully, fiercely, and freely. And when love is real, it won't make you wonder. It will make you certain that when someone begins to take you for granted, it rarely happens in one big moment. It happens slowly, subtly, almost invisibly. One day he's all in text, calls, attention. And then it starts to shift. He forgets the little things, stops showing up in ways he used to. The compliments fade. The effort disappears. But what stays? The expectation. The assumption that you'll still be there, still giving, still waiting, and you, because you care, try harder. You convince yourself it's just a phase, just stress, just bad timing, but deep down something in your gut is whispering this isn't right. That whisper becomes louder with each dismissed feeling. You try to talk, but he calls you too sensitive. You express a need and he labels it drama. The more you ask for clarity, the more he pulls away. And instead of walking away, you start shrinking. You start questioning your own feelings. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should be more patient. No, you're not asking for too much, you're just asking the wrong person. When you tolerate being devalued, you teach him he can love you less and still have all of you. Every time you excuse disrespect, every time you stay silent when you should speak, you're giving permission. Not just to him, but to yourself to accept less than you deserve. It's not weakness. It's conditioning. You've been taught that love means endurance. That patience is a virtue. But let's be clear, there's a difference between being patient and being played. Patience is love when it's mutual. But when it's one-sided, it becomes a trap. A trap that keeps you stuck in cycles of hoping, waiting, and hurting. You cannot change someone by loving them harder. You cannot earn respect by tolerating disrespect. What you allow is what will continue. It's a hard truth, but it's also a liberating one. Because once you recognize your power in the dynamic, you begin to shift. You start holding people accountable. You start demanding reciprocity. You stop explaining away mistreatment and start expecting more, not just from others, but from yourself. You become the kind of woman who refuses to be an option, a placeholder, or convenience. Somewhere along the way, you were told that your role is to keep everything together. That if love is slipping, it's your job to fix it. So you try harder than you should have to. You bend, you accommodate, you sacrifice. But the truth is, you can't hold a relationship together by yourself. Love is not a solo performance. And when you do all the work and he does all the taking, what you have isn't love, it's labor. And eventually, labor without love turns into resentment. And that resentment, it eats away at your joy, your confidence, your peace. The standard you set for how others treat you starts with what you tolerate. If you want change, stop explaining. Stop begging. Stop lowering your standards in the name of understanding. Start enforcing boundaries that honor your worth. People will only rise to the level you hold them to. Let them. Don't water yourself down just to be digestible. Don't quiet your needs to keep someone close. Because the moment you stop settling, the moment you draw that line and mean it, you change everything. Not just the relationship, but your entire life. Walking away is one of the hardest things you will ever do. Because we've been taught to stay. We're taught to hold on, to fight, to fix. We're told that walking away means giving up, that it's a sign of weakness, that if we just try harder, love will work. But that's a lie. Sometimes walking away is the bravest, most powerful choice you can make. It's the moment you stop betraying yourself for the sake of keeping someone else comfortable. It's when you stop choosing pain just because it's familiar. A man who takes you for granted is never afraid to lose you because he's convinced you won't leave. He's confident in your loyalty but not committed to your happiness. He's comfortable, not connected. And as long as you stay, as long as you make excuses for his behavior, as long as you accept the bare minimum, you confirm his belief that your love comes without consequence. That you'll always be there no matter how many times he disappoints you. But that cycle ends the moment you choose yourself over the illusion of what could be. Leaving isn't about bitterness. It's not about revenge. It's about recognition. Recognition that your needs matter, that your energy is sacred, that your peace has a price, and it's one you're no longer willing to pay for with pieces of your soul. Walking away isn't giving up. It's giving back to yourself. It's choosing growth over comfort, choosing healing over habit, and it's reclaiming your power in a situation where you've been giving it away one compromise at a time. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of goodbye, a version who's not exhausted from chasing emotional crumbs, a version who's not constantly questioning her worth. She's free, she's focused, she's whole. But you'll never meet her if you keep shrinking to fit a relationship that was never built to hold your full power. Sometimes the door doesn't open until you're willing to let go of what's behind it. And that release, it changes everything. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. The fear of being alone keeps too many women trapped in half love. But what's lonelier than being with someone who doesn't truly see you? What's more isolating than lying next to a man who makes you feel invisible? Being alone is not the enemy. Settling is. You were not created to exist in emotional survival mode. You were made to thrive in love that's mutual, deep, and respectful. Love that shows up without being begged for. Love that chooses you fully, not when it's convenient, but every single day. Choosing to walk away is choosing to believe in your future more than your past. It's the declaration that you will no longer stay in places where you are tolerated, silenced, or minimized. You will not be the woman who waits for potential to turn into action. You will not be the woman who gives endlessly without return. You will be the woman who knows when to stay, but more importantly, knows when to leave. Because when you walk away from someone who took you for granted, you don't just leave the relationship, you reclaim your voice, your dignity, your life. There comes a moment in every woman's life when the mirror stops reflecting just her face and starts revealing her truth. You look at yourself and realize you've become someone you never intended to be. Not because you lost yourself all at once, but because you handed over your identity in tiny, quiet pieces. You adjusted your tone. You hid your opinions. You second-guessed your instincts. All to make someone else feel comfortable, to keep the peace, to be what you wanted. And slowly, without noticing, you stop living for you. When a man takes you for granted, he's not just ignoring your words, he's ignoring your soul. He stopped listening not because you stopped speaking, but because your presence became routine, predictable, expected, and the most dangerous place to sit in someone's life is as a convenience. As someone who's always there, always giving, always sacrificing while he continues to show up halfway. You're not a background character in someone else's story. You are the story. But the longer you stay silent, the more your silence teaches him that your needs are optional. This is where identity matters. When you don't know who you are, you'll let someone else define you. You'll live for their approval. You'll chase their validation. You'll mold yourself to fit the image they're most comfortable with. And that's how you begin to lose your fire. You're not too much. You're not too loud. You're not too bold. You've just been surrounded by people who were never ready to witness the fullness of your light. So you dimmed it, not realizing that your power was never in being agreeable, it was in being authentically you. Reclaiming your identity isn't loud, it's not a speech, it's not a social media post. It's in the quiet decision to come back to yourself, to stop asking for permission to be whole, to stop auditioning for roles in people's lives you were never meant to play. It's in choosing outfits because you love them, not because he does. It's in saying no without guilt. It's in taking up space without apology. Because the woman you were before the disappointment, before the heartbreak, before the compromise, she's still there. She's not gone. She's waiting for you to come home. So many women carry the weight of everyone else's comfort, approval, and expectations on their backs. They shape-shift to meet other people's needs and forget their own in the process. But what if you stopped asking who you need to be for them and started asking who you need to be for you? Because you will never be too much for the right people. And the wrong ones, they'll always make you feel like you're not enough, no matter how much you give, change, or shrink. That's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their limitations. Choosing your identity is not a selfish act, it's a survival one. When you finally decide to stop letting someone else's treatment of you define your value, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop chasing closure because you become your own closure. You stop demanding respect because you embody it. And the people who truly see you, who truly value you, will rise to meet you there. Not because you forced them to, but because you finally stop settling for anything less. Reclaiming your identity is not a rebellion. It's a return to the woman you were always meant to be. There is a sacred power that rises in you the moment you stop asking for permission to exist fully. That moment when you realize you were never here to beg for love, to earn respect, or to prove your worth. You were born with it, but life, heartbreak, disappointment, they make you forget. You start believing you have to tone it down. That if you're too strong, too honest, too ambitious, you'll be too much. So you make yourself smaller. You become polite in rooms where you should have been powerful. But that's not your truth. That's not your story. That's conditioning. And it ends the moment you decide that you are enough as you are, without edits, without filters, without apology. We live in a world that rewards silence in women. The more you shrink, the more you're praised for being chill, for being not being standing, for not being like the rest. But that kind of praise is poison. It convinces you that love requires self-erasure. That staying likable is more important than being respected. And that's how so many women end up tolerated instead of treasured. You are not here to make everyone comfortable. You are not here to lower your standards so others can meet them effortlessly. You're here to raise the bar, starting with how you treat yourself. The woman who honors her. Self doesn't chase people. She doesn't beg for consistency. She doesn't shrink when she's misunderstood. Why? Because she knows that what she brings to the table isn't just enough, it's rare. And she's done with convincing people who benefit from her silence to start hearing her voice. You don't need to prove your value to someone who's blind to it. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you because your power threatens their comfort. Let them be confused. Let them walk away. You never needed someone who was only halfway in. You have to stop making homes out of people who were only meant to teach you lessons. Stop settling into temporary places and calling them destiny. Just because a man shows up doesn't mean he's meant to stay. Presence is not the same as partnership. A man being around is not the same as a man being invested. You deserve someone who doesn't just admire your strength but stands beside it. Someone who doesn't just say he values you but shows it daily, with action, with attention, with presence that doesn't have to be begged for. The moment you shift from will he stay to do I even want this, you change your life, because now the focus is back where it belongs, on you. Your peace, your boundaries, your purpose. You start asking different questions. Does this relationship support my growth? Do I feel safe to be my whole self here? Am I being seen or just being used? And those questions, they lead you to freedom. Because love is not supposed to give you clarity. It's not supposed to make you question your intuition. Real love aligns with truth, not confusion. The standard you set for your life begins with how you see yourself. If you treat yourself like you're second best, others will follow. If you talk to yourself with kindness, with reverence, with expectation, that becomes your reality. You are not too late to become the woman you were meant to be. You are not too broken to heal. You are not too far gone to rise. But no one is coming to save you. You are the rescue. You are the revolution. And when you decide to stop shrinking and start standing fully in your truth, everything around you starts to change. Because you changed. And that's where your real power begins. There comes a point when silence starts to scream louder than words. When the ache in your chest, the quiet resentment, the unanswered text, the missed calls, it all adds up to a truth you can't ignore. You're being taken for granted. And the hardest part, it didn't happen overnight. It crept in slowly through the moments you were overlooked, the days you didn't notice your pain, the times you had to ask for the bare minimum. You didn't stop loving, you just stopped being seen. And that realization stings, not because you need constant attention, but because you deserve consistent presence. You can give someone your time, your loyalty, your deepest love, but if they see it as an entitlement instead of a gift, you've already been devalued. Love only works when it's mutual, when both hearts show up with the same intensity, the same respect, the same effort. But when he stops appreciating your presence and starts expecting it, he no longer honors the privilege of having you. The problem isn't that you gave too much, it's that he never gave enough. And no amount of patience can fix a heart that doesn't recognize what it holds. Every woman reaches a breaking point, a moment when she realizes that being taken for granted is not love. That staying silent to keep the peace only creates internal war. That constantly pouring into someone who barely meets you halfway leaves you empty and resentful. You start noticing how your needs get ignored while his are catered to. You start seeing how your forgiveness is expected, not earned. That's the moment clarity replaces confusion. That's when the illusion starts to shatter and you begin to see the truth behind the charm. He used to chase you. Now he barely checks in. He used to ask about your day. Now he forgets you even had one. He used to light up when you walked in the room. Now it's like you're invisible. That change isn't subtle, it's intentional. Comfort has replaced curiosity. Laziness has replaced love. He assumes you'll always be there. And that assumption, it's the very reason you should consider walking away. Because when someone stops appreciating you, they stop deserving you. Your energy is too sacred to be wasted on indifference. Being taken for granted doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it's just neglect disguised as normal. It's the conversations that don't happen, the affection that disappears, the efforts that fade while expectations remain high. And because you love him, you justify it. You tell yourself he's tired, stressed, distracted. But when excuses become the norm and your feelings become an inconvenience, you're no longer in a relationship, you're in a cycle. A cycle where you keep giving and hoping, and he keeps taking and forgetting. That is not your forever. That is your warning. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And the longer you stay where you're not valued, the more you send a message to him and to yourself that your needs can wait, that your feelings can be ignored. But you were not created to be an afterthought. You are not a convenience. You are not here to fill space until someone finds better. You are the better. You are the storm and the calm, the beauty and the fire. And the second you remember who you are, you stop settling for someone who forgot. Because being taken for granted is not your destiny, it's your wake-up call. Oh, if you've been sitting in silence, if you've been shrinking to be chosen, if you've been handing out pieces of yourself just to be seen, stop. This is your moment, not to beg, not to explain, but to rise, to remember that you were never meant to chase love. You were meant to be love, embodied, whole, unapologetic, because the woman who knows her worth doesn't wait to be claimed, she claims herself. She doesn't ask someone to treat her better, she walks like she expects it. And when she leaves, she doesn't just exit a relationship, she exits every version of herself that ever believed she had to settle to be loved. You are not hard to love. You are just no longer available for being undervalued. And the second you stop letting a man take you for granted is the moment you step back into your power. Fully, fiercely, finally. So rise, not for revenge, not for attention, but because you remember who you are. And when a woman remembers her worth, the world has no choice but to treat her differently. That is your power. Own it.